How's it going, everyone? It's time for another Fight exclusive presentation of Fight in Focus right here on FITE TV. I'm Jon Alba, and we got a really special presentation here today because we are chatting with the CEO of FITE to Win, Seth Daniels. FITE to Win, one of the newest promotions that you can check out here exclusively on FITE, streaming more than 30 events this year. Seth, first off, congratulations. Welcome to the FITE family. How are you today?
Doing good, man. Good. I got back from Hawaii. It seemed like about 30 hours ago, and in about 4 hours, I hop on a flight to Miami. So, it's that tour, that tour life. It definitely takes a toll on you. But Hawaii, Miami, things. Life could be worse.
I was about to say, there's worse places that you can put events on than in
Don't
Honolulu.
worry, we go to them. We go there too.
Exactly. And that's what people are in for, such a treat here with FITE to Win coming to the FITE platform here, and FITE Plus specifically. Again, we're talking $4.99 a month for FITE Plus, or $49.99 for the entire year. And FITE to Win is planning to put on more than 30 events in 2023. For those who may not be familiar with what FITE to Win is, how can you break it down for us?
Well, FITE to Win was the first national super fight Brazilian jiu-jitsu grappling event, right? So like most fight fans, I find jiu-jitsu to be boring as shit to watch. Yeah, it's so fucking boring. So it's like you watch if you're watching a tournament match, you watch the shit, it's like one dude laying on top of the other motherfucker, and they're just laying there trying to get points till the end, until they win or whatever, And I was always like, man, I wish the sport was more exciting because there's so many great athletes. And then I was like, I bet if I could come up with a better rule set that could make the sport more exciting. And at the time, I was an MMA promoter and I was a concert promoter. And I was like, and trickle in some of my elements from MMA and the concert world, we might be able to make this sport watchable, And so we started doing super fight events, with one mat elevated so that it would have the best views, and we took away all the rules. So everything's legal, right? So slamming's legal, every submission's legal, heel hooks are legal, kids are out there trying to kill each other, from 5 years old up to 70-year-old men are out there, and we took away all the boring parts of jiu-jitsu and threw in $1 million worth of concert production. And over the years, it's been, imitated hundreds of times all across the world, which we knew would happen, from day one. And, given a lot of great opportunities to grappling that never existed before. And so when you tune into FITE to Win, what you're going to see is just a bunch of savages that are just fighting for its submission-only rule set. So, fighting for, to kill each other. It's the most exciting form of Brazilian jiu-jitsu and submission grappling that there is. And I also own part of ADCC. So that's saying a lot for me. I in my opinion, FITE to Win, our rule set is or more exciting than ADCC's, which is known as the most exciting grappling tournament in the world.
So the objective is quite literally in the name of the promotion here.
Yeah. I mean, I coach high school wrestling, and last night I was watching my guys. We won, but we were wrestling really smart, so it's hard to talk shit about my kids. But it was just and these are high school kids, by the way. But it's like we're out there a lot of the matches. We're wrestling to not lose. It's the same thing. You're gonna wrestle to win, or you're gonna wrestle not to lose. You're gonna fight to win, or you're gonna fight to not lose. And I feel like most people that do IBJJF, most people that do tournament style format, they're always fighting not to lose. And that doesn't work with us, because if you have one guy on bottom and he's trying something and you're on top doing nothing, the guy on bottom's going to win. That's just how it is. That's our rule set. And so we changed it up. We made the sport exciting, and we added in the elements to, my goal with it from day one was, I always felt like, when you go to an MMA show, right? And how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 30.
Oh, so you're just a kid. Okay. So this doesn't really affect you, but for most people, most women, most kids, most people that are, I would say over 30, that are past their prime and competing when it comes to this stuff like this, you go to bare knuckle boxing, which is fucking awesome, by the way. I have a funny story about that guy that owns that company. boxing, MMA. You go to these shows and you watch it and you're like, this is cool as fuck, but I can't do this. I'm not going to go out there and get smacked. I mean, I did 15 years ago. There's no way I can do this. You bring someone to Fight to Win, they see a little kid competing, they see an adult competing, they see, them walk out with the lights and the video and the fire and the flames, and they're like, oh, this looks awesome. I could do this. Or they post a picture of it and their friends see it. And that's how we help grow the sport. We help get people that are coming to watch the show into beginners in the gym. And that's what grows the schools, and that's what gets us new customers. That's what gets you new customers. That's what grows the MMA promotions. It grows everything. But we just had to do something different. We had to do something new to get people to tune in, because what was out there was boring as shit.
I want to dig more into that, because it almost sounds to me like you're trying to harness an experience for not just the audience, but even for the fighters as well. It seems like you talk about your concert background and taking production elements. What have you looked to specifically in incorporating that to make it an experience?
Well, I mean, from the moment you walk into our event or you tune in, you should know where your money went to. Now, with FITE TV being only $4.99 a month, just turning on the TV should be worth it, right? I can consistently argue with you guys because I want the price to be higher, but we're getting a ton of people are coming and joining the site. A ton of people that couldn't afford the other platform we were on. We had our first show did almost 10 times the amount of new signups than we did on our last platform.
Oh, that's great.
Which is huge, and the fighters love it. They're like, oh, dude, I got people that don't want to spend that much money for a year. They can just buy one, or they can buy a couple months. It's great, right? So, but when if you're at a show, you walk in, from the line array sound system to the lighting, we're all professionals, right? I have a professional VJ, a professional lighting guy, a professional video guy. We're streaming in 4K. Like, everything is leveled up. Because it's not a cheap ticket. Our tickets usually start at 40, sometimes they go up to 80. But every time, I can never say I've ever had anybody that I could feel like came into the show and didn't get their money's worth. And that's something I learned from Gary, my video guy, is like, you always want people when they walk in the door to know where their money was spent.
You talked about the elevated platform.
Mm-hmm.
Let's dig into that a little more, because I hear that and it almost feels like the gladiator sport, right? Where all the attention is right there in the middle. And obviously the gladiators didn't have a raised platform, but why was that important for you to emphasize what is going on right in the middle in front of everybody there?
Well, I wanted to make it as crowd and spectator friendly as possible. So if you put something on the ground, nobody can see anything past the first row. It's like when I see these shit promotions online, they have their stuff on the floor, and then like they have the one row of seating. Maybe you can get away if you stagger your seating with 2 rows of people seeing it. Then what are the rest of the people looking at? The back of another motherfucker's head, right? I'm not paying tickets to look at the fucking back of your head and your bald spot, So it's like elevating it, raising it. First of all, the way that I built the ring was to be flexing, right? So it flexes. I wouldn't say completely like a pro wrestling ring, because it's not that flexible, but it does have give in it. And we were wrestling on a 2-inch easy flex wrestling mat. That's the reason I can allow slams, right? Because it gives, which, you pick someone up, it's also more realistic. We've done some combat jiu-jitsu stuff with Subversive, and I'm not a huge fan of it. In my opinion, if you want to slap somebody, you might as well just put on gloves and have an MMA fight. That's just my thing, but it's cool, right? It's different, and I like different, right? But with us, with the slamming aspect of it, I'd never want anybody to feel like they're safe, which is the same thing as why Eddie created combat jiu-jitsu. Because jiu-jitsu guys are too comfortable sitting on their asses, scooting towards and playing guard. Well, at combat jiu-jitsu, you get popped in the fucking face. At Fight to Win, you throw up a triangle, motherfucker pick you up in the air and slam you on your head. So that was one of the other reasons that we wanted to elevate it. And we were the only ones doing it. Meta Morris had done it a couple times, but, we can't bounce, millions of dollars of checks and keep your business going. So I just figured out how we could pull it off. And, I wrestled in high school and a little bit in college, and I did judo, and wrestling. A lot of times final matches are on an elevated platform with one match at a time, and I just kind of I first saw it to be kind of like Pride was back in the day. Obviously not that big, but like to where it's kind of quiet during it. You know what I mean? Like, Pride, it was always like, it was a classier thing, right? they would be there, and you'd have this elevated platform, and everybody's kind of quiet during the match. And then when something happens, it gets really loud, you know, and that was kind of my thing. I was like, oh, I wanted this to be professional, and I want my fucking referees to dress up in suits and ties, and like, this is going to be the shit. And then around our 8th show, we're in San Francisco, and this dude Kurt Osiander, who's like he's like a fucking cult legend in our sport, right? He's like up there, he finishes his match, and his crew throws him a bottle of bourbon, and he slams it. And I was like, fuck, dude, this isn't supposed to be professional. It's supposed to be a party, right? And so after that, we're like, fuck, if we can't serve alcohol, if we're in venues that are going to be dicks about everybody smoking weed, like, we're not even going to bother going. We're just going to put on the most fun event possible, you know? So that way you go to have a good time and to watch the show. And I feel like every single part is a big part of it, especially the elevated thing. Just, I mean, I get so much shit all the time online, but, oh, it's so dangerous and people are going to fall off. Yeah, they do fall off, and it's fucking hilarious when they do. I've fallen off before. They fall off, the crowd catches them, they get back on. No one's ever really gotten hurt falling off the stage.
I was going to say, listening to you describe all this, and I watched the Honolulu event, there is definitely an element of underground that plays into this. It's high production value and it's high quality, but that underground element very much feeds into the action, and it feeds into the crowd response. How have you seen that elevate your events?
Well, I mean, like I said, it started at Fight to Win 8, you know, at Fight to Win 1 through 7. We kept everything pretty professional because I was like, you know, understand, everybody does what I do now, right? Like, there's a million promotions. When I did it, it was just me, right? There was Eddie Bravo, there was me, Metamoris was dying. I think Respect maybe had a show in St. Louis. That was it worldwide. Okay. I started doing them, and I was like, you know, I had this image in my head of how I wanted to go. And then that show started happening. They start pounding on the mats. And Evan's like, hey, you want him doing that? And I was like, yeah, I think I do, actually. And it just made me feel like old school, like in wrestling, like when I was a kid, we would pound on the mats during the finals and shit like that. And it was like one of the best parts. And now it's like, God, man, if they don't do that and the crowd doesn't, if the crowd doesn't get all crazy and like alcohol doesn't get spilled on the stage, like, you know what I mean? It's like, what's a party if you don't have to clean up afterwards, you know? And so it's like, we like the crowd to be involved. We, you know, if people want to walk out with their kids, I don't give a shit. They want their kids on the stage with them when they win. They want to pound on the mat, you know? The coaches want to scream and yell. Well, I don't care. Do whatever you want. You know what I mean? Have a good time. You know, that's kind of where we took that.
You mentioned pro wrestling before, and as I watch the product and as I hear you describe it, there's so much pro wrestling influence I hear, and that's obviously pro wrestling, a huge part of the FITE platform. Have you leaned into elements of professional wrestling for the presentation of this?
Well, I mean, WWE is the king of production. You know, pro wrestling it's funny because people are like, oh, UFC looks so good. Okay, well, UFC looks very professional, but UFC is boring. You know what I mean? You want to see dope, watch ONE FC. ONE FC's, their production's insane, but nothing can touch WWE. We got close at ADCC. This next ADCC, I'll be able to touch it. I'll be able to touch, you know, like SummerSlam, like Royal Rumble, like that level. I wouldn't try to go WrestleMania, and I was a little in over my head. But yeah, I mean, you always, like, I had a million people steal from me to create their companies. I try to steal as much as I can from AEW, WWE, Top Rank. You know, anytime I see anything, I go to a concert and I see a cool element, you know, I try to take that for myself. One of my good buddies is the lead singer of Tool.
Oh, wow.
And, I go to his shows all the time, mainly Tool, but mainly Pussifer. He has these crazy lighting elements. And me and my production guy, like, we steal his shit all the time, you know, and that's just kind of how this industry is. You see somebody cool, you steal it, and then you figure out how to make it work for you, you know, because if you just get set in your ways, you're like, oh, this is our stuff, this is how we're doing it. You know, I mean, Kavanaugh said it during the Triad the first time, you know, or I don't know if it was Triad or the one with Metallica, where he had some pretty serious production on that show, you know. And it's just like, man, like, you know, you got to continually make yourself better. Every time I go and do a show in a city, it has to be better than the time before.
And we just highlighted that show, in fact, here on the 12 Days of Fight Plus. And you can go check that out in the archives if you haven't already, including the full Metallica performance, by the way.
Yeah,
But
that was cool.
I
That
think
was
that's
ballsy.
cool.
That was ballsy because I used to do rock shows and concerts, and I know there's absolutely zero money to be made when you're working with music. It's very hard to make a dollar. And so if anybody's going to go out there and put something on like that, especially with Metallica, that is a $4 or $5 million act. Like, that guy probably lost a ton of money putting that show on, but it looked pretty awesome. You know what I mean? And I don't think a lot of people know that. And a lot of people don't respect that. You know, they'd be like, oh, they make so much money. They do this, they do that. No, you don't make shit when you're booking a concert. You lose a lot of fucking money. And that was one of the reasons, you know, I was happy to switch over to this platform because I was like, these guys take chances. You know, I don't necessarily watch all the stuff that's on the platform. Some of the stuff I think is, you know, whatever. But, you know, like Bare Knuckle, you know, like I met that guy before he did his first show. I met him in Philly during COVID. And we were doing shows. We were the first company to do any live events on the Eastern Seaboard. Fight to Win was. And we started events in Texas. It was like us, the UFC, and the NBA. We were the first company in the world to allow people to start coming in.
Well, and the beauty of Fight is it's like that buffet bar where there's something different for everybody too. If you don't like one thing, well, we got something else for you too. And you can check out the entire archives here on Fight and Fight Plus. I want to continue digging into the product itself. You mentioned this before, and this is what I was just blown away by watching the Honolulu event. Right out of the get-go, you got a fight between 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
And then later on, you're seeing, as you said, some of the most elite competitors in the world. That incorporation of that age difference and being accepting of so many different competitors from different walks of life, how has that serviced your promotion, and what do you think that provides for the audience?
Well, I mean, the kids are, I mean, some of the places you go to, the kids are the most exciting parts of the night. There are some killers out there, man. If you look at the way that grappling is trending, I don't know how well you follow it, but like ADCC this year, like a lot of the new champions, they're teenagers, dude. They're 19 years old. They're 20 years old. So why would I not want to showcase them as they're coming up and building new stars? You know, one of the issues, sorry, I have a broken jaw, so it tends to shift on me sometimes. So, you know, the previous platform I was on, you know, they have really dug their feet into a couple of grapplers, right? I'd say 20 out of 20 million, right? And those are the only ones they focus on. And they forget about everybody else, right? But it's everybody else is what pays the bills, right? Everybody else is the ones that are selling tickets. Everybody else is the next superstar. So by giving all opportunities, you know, we don't give all opportunities. Like you got to at least be training like, you know, a couple of years to be able to get on the show. I would say, you know, I mean, we started taking blue belts and we start taking kids at gray belt, which takes a couple of years to get both of those, you know, so they do have some skill set, you know, before they get on. But some of the kids are so elite, man. Like there's teenagers on the show that would wreck me if I fought them. And I'm 40 years old and, you know, been a black belt for 5 years. You know, so yeah, I mean, I think it's important to do that. I think it's important to be able to show everybody in the crowd that, oh, my kid could do this. I could do this. My father could do this. Anybody could do this. You know, you just got to get the best of the best and hope that they go out there and put on a show.
What do you think Fight to Win is doing for the sport?
I think what we're doing is what we've already done. You know, we paved the path for every professional grappling organization to exist. You know, we've done more events than everybody else combined. And I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, I'm addicted to work. You know, I love work. I love what I do. My crew loves it. We love doing them in different cities. I think that's the one thing that we really do differently than everybody else because it's expensive. Touring's expensive. You know, we've got trucks, we've got trailers. I've got the same staff. I fly in, fly out, hotels, houses. I refuse to fly Frontier Spirit, so travel's never cheap. You know, so it's just one of those things that we go to pretty much every major city in the United States in order to push the event and give people opportunities to make a name for themselves so they can get sponsors and get views and build their careers and build their schools and and grow the sport.
Talking about the live experience for the fans, you've certainly put that over quite a bit as to how great it is for the fans. But what do you think you provide people from a viewing experience perspective that will be watching at home on FITE and FITE Plus?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that we're best at is there's no downtime, right? You watch any event, usually there's, and I apologize if other promoters are watching this and they feel like I'm taking a shot at them. Where they span off to the commentators to talk, or they give the announcer a whole bunch of time up there on stage with this, fucking bow tie and shit. And with us, it's fight, and then I need 30 seconds before I can get the next one ready, cue the music, launch. So I'll run like a 30-second commercial, boom, 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 boom. There's no downtime. I start and I finish and I try to get in. That show was, I believe, 6 hours and 34 minutes, and I nailed it perfectly on the time I thought it would end. We rarely ever run late, and we're always pushing as fast as we can, and I think that's huge as for a viewer, just because I hate, having to listen to commentators and have it pan off to them. And I know a lot of people like that. It's just not my thing,
There was one thing I noticed about the commentary, by the way, too, as they're fighting, and I appreciated this as a broadcaster. Mm-hmm. They kind of just let the action happen, and they color the action as it goes along, almost like watching golf in a way, where the commentators sit back, let the action happen, and then go forth. How has that helped enhance the experience?
It's not about them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about me. It's not about my staff. It's not about the referee. It's not about the announcer. It's about the fighters. So let them fight. Chime in a little bit when you know some stuff about them. Walk people through the submission. Maybe talk about why something's happening, why it's not. But nobody needs to hear about your personal backstory as a commentator. Nobody needs to hear about, the one time you did something like that. Like, it's not about you. Shut the fuck up. Talk about what's happening. Smoke your vape pen, have a drink, fucking have a good time. No, I'm serious, man. I hate that shit. That's why I announce the show and I do it off stage. I never go up there and do it. It's not like I have stage fright or anything like that. I just feel like all the focus needs to be on the fighters at all times.
And Fight to Win is producing more than 30 events this year for FITE and FITE Plus. If you haven't had a chance, guys, just $4.99 a month, $49.99 for the entire year. Clearly an exciting addition to the FITE family. Is there anything else you'd like to add that people should be aware of in regards to Fight to Win before we wrap up here, Seth?
No, man. I mean, we've had 7 years where a lot of people that wanted to have a membership that wanted to watch our shows weren't able to. And now, at $5 a month, $50 a year, now we have that ability to get out there and reach a whole new segment and new people, which I'm really excited about. I think, if we're in the town that you happen to live in, you should definitely try to come and check out a show live, because not that we don't want you to watch it on FITE. It's just a whole different experience. But also, if you're watching something and you think something needs to be better, needs to be improved, send us a message. Let us know, because we're always striving to do better, and just because we were on the same platform for a long time, we might have got a little lackadaisical here and there, and we're always open to improving every aspect of our event, So you're watching it live, you see something you'd rather see. A lot of times it's probably something that I've already thought about or we're already working on, but input is always welcome.
He's Seth Daniels, is the CEO of Fight to Win, and Fight to Win is available now on FITE. Subscribe now, $4.99 a month, $49.99 for the year for FITE Plus. Seth, really great chatting with you. I'm excited to see Fight to Win explode even more so on this platform. And like you said, it's not just an event, it's an experience that people are going to get a chance to check out here at Fight to Win. Thank you so much for joining me here on Fight in Focus. And with that said, this has been another edition of Fight in Focus exclusively here on FITE. We'll see you next time.